For UTV TV, this is Data Transmission, the show where we talk about current issues in tech. On today's episode, we will be talking about digital well-being and social media. With me here, as always, is my friend, Pranjal Satija.
Nice to be here, Ethan.
Yeah. So today we're kind of talking about technology. Kind of throughout history, technology has always been designed to make life better. We've got the light bulb, telephones, cars, radio, television.
And these might all sound like really sort of different things, but they all actually have one really common goal, and it's about connecting you with the people that matter and making the world smaller. And that sort of means taking things that weren't in your reach and putting them in your reach. And since, like the dawn of technology, that's sort of been what it's all about. But, now one can ask the question, like, has it maybe gone too far? Has the world become too small? And are we too connected to each other? And if that's the case, what are the consequences to all of this? What can go wrong?
Yeah, well, the thing with that is so social media apps now are designed to be addictive. So kind of what people think is just harmless, like we're connecting with our friends, blah, 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 posting pictures, interacting, whatever. It's actually like a real addiction, like drugs or gambling or sex or Fortnite, video games, the like. And I don't think that's accidental.
Yeah, no, I don't think it is either. And I mean, the biggest or easiest example to sort of make about that is this book called Hooked. It's by a guy named Nir Eyal, and the full name of the book is Hooked: How to Build Habit-Forming Products. And it's a book that everyone in Silicon Valley and everyone in tech swears by, and they talk all about reading the book. I don't think the author of the book, Nir, had this sort of malicious intent in mind, but a lot of the things that are explained in the book can be used or done maliciously.
We actually have some quotes actually from the kind of the testimonials of those books. We're going to read those off a little bit. So we have this guy, Boris Veldhuizen van Zanten. I probably mispronounced that. It'll probably show up on screen telling me I'm a dumbass. He was the founder of the Next Web, right? Next Web, is that what it was?
Yep.
And so he said the book everyone in Silicon Valley is talking about. All right. We're moving on to another guy who founded WordPress, Matt Mullenweg. He said Hooked gives you the blueprint for the next generation of products. Read Hooked or the company that replaces you will. And then moving on to Dave McClure, who founded 500 Startups, which, correct me if I'm wrong, that's kind of one of the biggest incubators, right?
It's an accelerator program, yeah, and it's called 500 Startups because they've incubated and invested in over 500 startups.
Well, he said that the book's an essential crib sheet for any startup looking to understand user psychology. So we have all these big names in Silicon Valley that are really responsible for making kind of the next companies come to light. And they're all talking about how great this book is. So, I mean, it has some value. So let's kind of get in a little bit to kind of what this book talks about.
Sure. Yeah. So the biggest sort of thing proposed or created by the book is something called the Hooked model. And it has 4 or 5 steps, depending on how you count it. The first one is the trigger. And the trigger is split into 2 parts. One of those is from within the user, like I want to do X action. And the other one is from within the app. I think what we see more often than not is the trigger never comes from within the user. Very few people, at least in my experience, are sitting there thinking, oh, I want to do something. What really happens is the app or product or whatever that they're addicted to triggers them to do something by sending them a notification or actually it's usually just that, notifications.
It's a big deal.
Then there's actions that go on. That's sort of step 2 of this model. And that's basically... it's something you do. In the case of getting a notification, it's like you tap on it. Basically, you're tapping on the notification in anticipation for this thing called the variable reward, which is the next part. And the variable reward is what you get in exchange for responding to the trigger. And the key is that it is variable. Rather than be a fixed thing, what happens is the goal of the variable reward is that it's satisfying or it's fulfilling, and you're like, okay, yeah, it's good that I clicked on that. It activates the receptors in your brain that are responsible for making you feel pleasure, but it still leaves you wanting more. And the fact that it's variable, which we'll talk about in a minute,
Yeah.
is the
We have
thing
a
that
study there. There's actually a study that we'll bring up in just a second.
yeah. The variability of it is what really makes it powerful. And then the last part is an investment. This is a little more abstract, but it's basically now once you've gotten your variable reward, you invest something back into the platform, which sort of makes you feel tied to it. Like, if it's YouTube, you invest your time and you watch the video. If it's like Instagram, you like the picture, and like that's an investment. It's something you've done that makes you sort of feel like you've contributed to the platform or contributed to the product that is sort of causing all this for you.
Yeah, so talking about that with that variable reward, this study by B.F. Skinner in the 1950s is using this contraption that's now known as a Skinner's box. And essentially what this was is they took mice. They had two groups of mice. They had one group of mice that were in one of these boxes. Every time they pressed a lever, they'd get one little food, right? Great. The mice would learn to press the lever. They get food. Now, in the other box, when the mice pressed the lever, they would get anywhere from 0 to numerous amounts of food. And what they actually found is that the mice in the box with the numerous food and the variable reward were like way more likely to be pressing that, almost kind of showing signs of an addiction, like that we would see with like drug addiction or alcoholism or that kind of thing. And that's exactly what's happening with likes and interactions on social media. You're like, oh, how many likes am I going to get on this photo? And then people are judging their self-worth based on that, which we might probably get into a little bit.
It's like gambling.
It is.
It's like gambling, and even like
a slot machine.
Yeah, like a slot machine, and like loot boxes and video games sort of follow the same principle. It's a variable reward. You have no idea what's coming next, and because there's always this potential that you'll get something even better, you're going to keep trying.
Yeah. So like say when you're posting a picture, right? So if we go through that model, you have the trigger. So posting in anticipation of this variable reward, the likes or retweets, upvotes, whatever imaginary internet points you fancy the most at the time. And the action, the important part about the action, which I don't know if we mentioned earlier, is that the model mentions that it's the simplest behavior to get that variable reward, which we wonder why we see so many like random, like low quality selfies on all these apps. And it's a pretty simple and easy thing to do. You'll pull out your phone, just snap a picture of yourself. Not a hard thing to do. And then you get your likes, and you're going to keep checking. If you have more likes, more comments, maybe interact with some of your comments, and you're back on the platform, more likely to post again, more likely to look through the platform, like other people's posts, and see ads, which makes the company money. Because the whole goal is to keep you on there as much as possible.
Yeah, and that actually, it's sort of like a business model thing where these companies make money off of your attention, not off of your happiness or enjoyment of their platform. And, companies being companies, what they'll do is when they make money off of X, they will try to optimize X so that they make the most amount of money they can. Mm-hmm. And if they make the money out of your attention, they're going to optimize to capture the most attention that they can.
Yeah. And they kind of changed some of the way they present those posts too. And then we were talking earlier about like the infinite scrolling and like the adaptive feeds.
Yeah, those are dangerous.
Yeah, like there used to be a time where there was like pages. You kind of kept track of how many posts you'd scrolling through.
Yeah, and I actually liked the pages model. For two reasons. There's the first one, which is that you have this sense of, oh, wow, I've looked at like 5 pages of content. And the second one is less related to digital well-being. It's actually more of like a UI design thing. When you have infinite scroll, there's no way to sort of link to a certain spot in the scrolling list. And this might sound silly, but like if you've got pages of content, you can like share a link for page 4. You can't really share a link for a certain point in an infinite scrolling. At least I haven't used any apps that have infinite scroll and let you do that. Search results, like Google search results, are still in pages, and I appreciate that about them. Is you can.
Have you ever been to the second page of Google?
Very rarely.
Like you're really like once you get like to 2 and even third page, like that's desperation.
I'm just saying, like as an example, you know, if you do find like something on the second page, you can link to it.
Yeah, I'd be surprised. Honestly, you can get some real low budget content, or the content Google doesn't want you to see.
Yeah, that's another interesting thing. We'll get to that when we talk about the adaptive feed. No, this is gonna come later. The adaptive feeds.
Well, that's kind of where we are.
I guess
We have.
Yeah.
We're trying to keep the flow going a little bit.
Yeah.
We have a little outline. So like how we're gonna do this.
Yeah. This is challenging.
We're just starting, like every millennial who's starting a podcast.
Yeah, like literally everyone has now. Like you don't even exist if you don't have a podcast anymore.
That's why we're doing this.
So I'm going to talk about what the hooked model and the variable reward model does. On the other side, he sort of mentioned how it works when you create a post. I'll talk about what happens when you respond to the posts. In this case, the trigger is usually a lot more obvious and it's a lot more direct, which is something like a push notification on your cell phone saying like, Ethan McCoskey and 4 other people in your friend group shared something. So now that in itself tells you that something is going to come. It could be good. It could be bad. There's Ethan, who I like and, I'm presumably friends with, but you don't know who the other 4 people are. So that's sort of like the gamble. But, the action is simple. You see the notification. You read it. You're like, oh, that looks good. You click on it. Now, the variable reward is like I said, you don't know who those 4 people are. You don't know what they posted. You don't know what they're saying. No matter what happens, though, it's going to be at least a little bit satisfying to you because they're very careful. Like they know that you interact with a certain person a lot, so they share that. And like the investment is you comment on their post, you like their post, you go and you interact with them. And that's you taking your time and your energy and putting it back into the platform for the next time, I guess.
That's kind of that investment going back, leading into the cyclical cycle, which you kind of saw. We talked about.
Yeah,
it's
dangerous.
It is.
And then we sort of touched on infinite scrolling and adaptive feeds already. Like I said, infinite scrolling is bad because you don't really know where you are. And then, in my opinion, at least from a user interface and like a design standpoint, it also gives you no way to sort of bookmark or save where you are in the scrolling list.
Is that kind of like why sometimes you'll go to comment and then you'll go back and then you'll not be in the same place? Like it'll move you back all the way up to the top?
Exactly. Something like that. Like you click, like you're scrolling through a list of things, you click on one of them to comment and you go back and it's like you're at some completely different spot in the list of things.
And that gets kind of annoying.
Yeah, and you have to scroll back through it. Yeah. And actually, the next thing we're going to talk about is adaptive feeds. These things are changing all the time. Every platform now has some sort of like really mystical and enigmatic algorithm.
It's not chronological anymore. Like
right.
That used to be the thing.
Almost
it's like
never.
You'll see the new stuff up top and you keep going. Once you've seen everything, like that's it. You're done.
Yeah, and it's not like that anymore because now what these companies do is, like I said, they make money off of your attention. So what they do is they optimize the feed to capture the most of your attention possible. So what they'll do is they'll show you things that have received the most engagement from other people in your friend group. Now, this sounds really weird, but I mean, the idea is that if, out of your, sort of group of 300 people that you follow, if 250 of them saw a post and reacted to it, good or bad, if they reacted to a post, then they're going to be like, okay, well, this person's probably likely to react too. Let's show this to that person. Even if that's not really good content. And that's the problem here is that it can be very like, it leads to like clickbait. And this like really fluffy content that lacks substance because those engagements are like, oh, you looked at it? Okay, we're going to count it.
Yeah. And it doesn't end up being meaningful. And then it's like, I mean, you scroll through and like you might have a little bit of like small satisfaction at the beginning, but like over time too, and like say if you're scrolling through for an hour or so, I mean, there's probably going to be a lot of stuff you really don't care about. Like maybe you saw a few good things that you were excited about, and then there's always kind of like a feeling of just at the end. Like there's not like you're not feeling good about kind of what you just did, which is interesting. We think when we talk about some of kind of the psychological effects. And there's actually there's a study that we looked up. I forget exactly where it's from, but we'll
put it on.
We'll put it up on the screen.
It'll be on.
Because we're doing this as a vodcast to make it a little different.
Yeah. So if you're listening to this on like Spotify or something like that,
maybe keep listening on Spotify, right? Like we want that.
But if you
head
want like
over-
sources and stuff, go to UTD
Yeah,
TV.
head over to the UTD TV YouTube channel, and it'll be up there. You can watch us, see our beautiful faces
Oh,
in
that's right. This is a great camera angle.
HD,
4K.
4K HD.
Yeah.
It's great. We got nice lighting and everything. So kind of reading through some of these psychological effects here, if you want to kind of start reading through that list.
Sure. Yeah. So I'm just gonna like sort of list them off and then touch on them a little bit. Stress, negative effects on mood, anxiety, depression, sleeping problems, addiction, impact on relationships, on and offline, envy, and loneliness. And I know that's like a big laundry list of like very related mental health issues, but like we're not the first people to say this. Like I said, we'll link sources, but
Yeah, and then so with the that impact on relationships. Remember we were talking before about something. What was the study you were mentioning about how many relationships people can actually maintain?
Yes. What was the name of the guy?
What's the guy's name?
Dunbar. So there's this thing called Dunbar's number, which I forget the man's first name. It's something Dunbar.
Obviously.
Yes. Who was an anthropologist, I think, who determined scientifically that you as a human can really only have stable and meaningful relationships with about 150 people at a time. Beyond that, things start to get chaotic. And yeah, obviously no one respects that rule on the internet. I mean,
if you only have 150 friends on Facebook, it's almost like
you're a loser.
I mean,
right?
no one our age uses Facebook though.
Yeah, no one our age uses Facebook. I like went through my list of people that I follow on Instagram and on Twitter, and I was like, I'm gonna get rid of all of the people that I don't like or that I don't talk to a lot.
I did that recently too.
And I'm still at like 220 or 230.
It kind of felt freeing.
Yeah, I was like, I don't like you. Boom, unfollow.
Well, and there's always kind of this worry of like, oh, then they'll know and stuff. And then you just have to realize like,
no one
do
cares.
I care? Does
Yeah.
anyone care? Does
No,
anyone? I mean,
no one
how are
cares.
you?
It happens.
I mean,
That's
there are
life.
apps that tell you though, like when people unfollow you, which I think is like
Those
the
actually
worst
those are
thing.
gone now.
Oh, really?
All of the platforms have shut down their API. I used to have one for Instagram that would tell me when people unfollowed me, and I got a notification from them. This bothered me because I paid for it too. I got a notification from them saying, well, Instagram and Facebook shut down their API and we can't use it anymore. We can't do this. That's another interesting point.
They maintain control then.
Yeah, it's with their APIs. Now, these platforms used to allow you used to have like third-party Twitter clients and stuff. But now these platforms, like I said, they're making money off of your attention and off of ads. So they're very, very tight about controlling how you view and interact with that.
I know there used to be a very popular Twitter third-party app where everything was just purely chronological. That was it. Very simple. You only saw stuff from people you followed, not the like people you may know and like all those recommendations they have, and like they put the blue checkmark people up top and all that kind of stuff. And yeah, that's shut down now.
Yeah, no,
They
they
don't
don't like that. They don't like that because it goes against their idea or their business model.
Yeah, and then also like with the psychological, you end up having a lot of self-esteem issues with people. This is actually what Elon Musk and Joe Rogan talked about on their
their podcast.
Their infamous podcast, which I think is not quite as good as ours.
Yeah, no, ours is way better.
But like people are constantly comparing their like full unfiltered life to like the really carefully curated lives of other people. Like, I mean, the amount of time and effort that goes into selecting which parts of your life you want to post on social media, what filters, how everything. People are looking at that as if that's everyone else's life when they're seeing their own life and they actually knowing all the problems, the full story and behind everything. And it ends up becoming an issue. I think there's a quote, "A comparison's the thief of joy," which I really like that quote. I'm pretty sure it was Theodore Roosevelt.
Elon Musk is the one that dropped this quote on the Joe Rogan
He
Experience,
did. So
right?
I'm kind of stealing. I'm pulling some Elon. I mean, I'm not opposed to doing some of the things Elon Musk does. I mean, he's obviously been
Building
successful.
rockets.
Like he's doing something
really
right.
fast cars. Yeah, he's good.
He's
good. He's a good
definitely
guy.
doing something right.
Yeah.
But also like people, they're posting just for the sake of posting to like stay relevant. Like, oh, if I don't post once or twice a day, everyone's gonna forget I exist.
Yeah.
Which is not how things work.
And that's also like a byproduct of these algorithms. So like these algorithms have a lot more negative consequences than just, oh, they're going to keep you using the platform longer. There's that one, which is that I'm sure they take into account how often someone posts and how many engagements you usually get. So if you think about an algorithm that when it's considering someone's post, one of the factors is how much engagement did this person get in the last month? Naturally, that favors people who post a lot. I would be shocked if like every social media algorithm didn't consider some sort of factor like that.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, it's like, you know, a lot of companies have been accused of sort of tailoring their algorithms to further their own agenda. And I'm sure for the most part this isn't true because a lot of people have come out and said this.
Yeah.
And
It's kind of like with the censorship, not the censorship and kind of the.
it's not like censorship, but it's like it's a sort of censorship. Like Google was fined in the EU because when they launched Google Local on Maps and introduced reviews and stuff, what they did is they buried Yelp search results.
Interesting.
And the EU slapped them with a massive
Yeah.
fine. I forget, this was a few years ago, but like
Well, you have to pay Google to be one of those like
yeah, now you do.
high result. Like if you want to really come up on Google Maps searches,
Yeah,
you kind of
right.
you have to pay for that.
And it's getting blurrier and blurrier what is and isn't an ad. Because like 3 years ago, when you were on the internet, if someone paid to have something there, it would just be like ad.
Yeah.
That's it. It would just have
And
a little
Amazon
badge
still
on it.
does that, but very small. And a
Yeah.
lot of companies, and then you'll still see.
They're getting
Sponsored.
they're getting slippery
Yeah,
about
but
it.
there's a
They're-
lot more. I mean, it's hard to tell.
Yes.
But like on Google, if you do click on those links that say ad to the web, and it's a website you were looking for anyways, the company has to pay Google for every click.
So are you one of those anarchists
I am.
that will like instead of
Yeah.
going to like apple.com, you'll Google search for Apple and click on the first
yeah,
ad?
and it'll charge them a little bit of money, just like
a lot
little-
of money actually. It's
actually a lot
probably
of
like
money.
$20 or $30 per click because like
Dang.
I mean Apple's
I mean, they
probably
can
a very
they can
competitive
afford it,
keyword.
yeah.
Yeah, they can afford it.
They can afford it.
They can afford it.
There's got to be a better way to do these social media stuff, right? I mean, it's kind of where the whole concept of digital well-being has come from.
Yeah.
Did we ever really fully define that?
Of what digital well-being is?
Is it fully defined even?
No, I don't think so. But basically, I think what it is every like mobile operating system basis. So there's only two. There's iOS and there's Android.
Everyone.
have rolled out. It's called Screen Time on iOS. You use Android. What's it called?
I don't know if it has a real full name.
It doesn't have a name. Okay.
But there's a
Well,
lot of features that kind of go under the category.
yeah, they sort of all.
I think Google kind of just umbrellaed it as to like digital well-being
Yeah,
stuff.
and that's how it is on Screen Time too. But basically, it's like you set timers for apps. It'll notify you and remind you, hey, you've been using this app for a while. Do you want to cool it? Things like that. And that's like from a operating system level. But I don't think that's where the biggest impact
No, probably
can happen.
Probably
Like
not.
if my iPhone is telling me, hey, you should use this app less. Like this is actually interesting. When this was unveiled for the first time, and I guess we'll add a keynote slide here in the video. When Screen Time was unveiled, and Apple did this at WWDC, which is their developer conference, on the slides they had examples of Screen Time. And they had Instagram and Facebook at the top as like these two danger apps that were like taking up all
That's
your
interesting.
time.
Which, I mean, is probably very accurate.
I mean, this was back when Tim Cook was beefing with Mark Zuckerberg. They were fighting with each other in the news.
They've
It was,
always kind of been fighting, though.
yeah,
this
no,
was
but
the
this
big-
was like they
the
were
big
really
beef.
fighting because someone asked Tim Cook, "What would you do if you were in Mark's position?" And he was like, "I wouldn't have been in Mark's position." And
That's
you know,
like some Drake Pusha T level
yeah,
beef here.
yeah. Lizard Mark was not happy.
Does
with
Lizard
that.
Mark have a secret son
I don't know.
named Ben?
Maybe.
Maybe. We will find out.
But
We'll keep you updated on Lizard Mark.
on his secret son. But so I think but going back to what we were talking about, I don't think this is something that should happen from the OS side. I'm sad that it's gotten to that point. I think what really should have happened is people should have been like, and I think this will happen in like the next 5 years. People are like, you know what? Facebook and Instagram, they are not good for me. I am going to like, the problem is right now there's no replacement. I'm sure there's someone out there working on that. I'd like to be working on that. I just don't have that much time to,
Yeah,
to be like a healthier version.
It's a hard thing to get into because like you worry about. I mean, fiscally, you have to be able to make some money
you have to charge
support
people.
to support the company, and the only way to really do that without ads is to have people pay a subscription. How are you going to get them to be like, I want to pay a subscription for this new random social media that no one I know is on yet?
Exactly, and it's a lot like, or you could do like what DuckDuckGo does. I used DuckDuckGo for a while, so like, I guess shout out to them. It's pretty good. But yeah, they show you untargeted ads, which I think
Okay.
is interesting
That's
because you
better.
don't have to pay for
Yeah.
it. And the ad is targeted only based off of what you're currently searching for.
Interesting.
So if you search for cars, you'll see car ads. If you search for baby products, you'll see ads for baby products.
I always like when I see ads that have no relation to me.
It's like, I don't want to buy high heels. Like,
Yeah.
well, why are you showing me this?
But when I see that, I'm like, oh, maybe they don't really know me. They don't have much information on me.
You-
Or maybe they just do it anyways to make you feel that.
You've tricked the AI, but maybe
Maybe.
the AI is playing like some weird game of 3D chess, and it's
5D
tricking
chess, I
you into thinking that you tricked it.
Well, I'm going to play 70 chess.
That's a lot of dimensions.
That's a lot of D's, a lot of dimensions. I mean, you can kind of do this yourself too. We're gonna wrap this up pretty soon, but like kind of steps you can take to improve your own digital well-being. Like I've turned off notifications, pretty much from everything. The only notifications I still get are ones directly from another human being.
Like texts.
So like texts, direct messages on Twitter. I'm not sure if I have those on even. And notifications for myself, so like reminders I've set in calendar stuff. But if it's not a notification directly prompted by an action of another human, I have it off.
Get it?
Yeah, and I tried doing that a lot of stuff in app, but Instagram keeps resetting my notification preferences. And I was scrolling through yesterday. There's like 30 different like notifications to turn off, and there's so many different things on there. And it's like one of them was like notification of like new Instagram apps. Like, oh, download Boomerang or something.
How many apps do they have now?
I don't know.
Like,
I don't
are
even
there
know
that
why
many
was
that
on
it's its own
there.
thing?
Like, I don't know. I mean, they have Boomerang, I think, is separate.
There's
Or maybe it's-
Boomerang. There was the
I
is
thought it was
Boomerang
integrated now.
the fast like the video thing
Yeah.
where it like okay. There was one that lets you. I think they moved this into Instagram that lets you like add like it lets you like lay out multiple pictures into like a mosaic
I don't
kind
know
of
if they
thing.
still did. I don't know.
I
But
don't
that's not that was always third party.
I don't keep up with them and their
But yeah,
nonsense.
I mean, just knowing, just thinking about it is always a good thing.
Yeah, just think about it. Be conscious. Like I said, screen time. I set limits on screen time on my cell phone. It's over there. I set them all the time. They're hard to keep up because you have to put a password on it, and like you know the password, so you can always turn it off pretty easily. One thing that I think is good to do is actually to turn off the little red bubbles. This is more a thing on iOS than Android, but the iOS home screen, those little red bubbles, they personally make me really nervous. I've turned them all off.
That's interesting. I can imagine. Yeah, we have little dots on there.
You have little dots. So just turn off your notifications. Be careful.
Got some
about
little
it.
helpful tips.
I have a browser extension actually. That's a good one that I use. It's called Ghostery. Ghostery is
It's not Mark
available for.
Cuban's. It's Mark Cuban's thing, right?
It might be. I don't know.
know.
It's available for Chrome, which you shouldn't use Chrome if you're worried about your privacy. By the way, let's just get that out
It's
there.
still like I wish I could pay for Google services.
There's Firefox, Safari, Apple Gang.
All right. Well, thank you everybody for tuning in. That's kind of all the time we have for this episode. Join us in our next episode, and we'll be talking about another topic that we don't know. Not decided yet.
Nope,
But
we're
it'll be
gonna
a
figure
great
it out.
topic. It'll be great.
Yes, it will be.